On today's podcast, I had Steve Sims on. Steve was a professional concierge for billionaires. This guy made the impossible happen by getting meetings with people like Elon Musk, the Pope, Elton John, just a whole bunch of other crazy stuff. And he's got a book coming out called Go for Stupid, where he just talks about this concept of trying to make your ideas even crazier and more stupid than you could possibly imagine. And it's a really cool concept, especially for those who are entrepreneurs and business people who, maybe are scared of what others think of them for their ideas. Maybe they're fearful of judgment and what we would have today as a cancel culture. It's going against that. It's saying, hey, go out there, try and take risks, try and do it big. Be crazy, be like Elon Musk, and go for the big stuff. So we had a really fun time talking about that. We talked about what the elite people that he worked with and the people that he was able to, be a concierge for, were able to get and do. So it's just a really fun interview. So make sure you stay to the end. Now, let's jump into it.
Welcome to the Ryan Pineda Show, where our mission is to invest,
I only expect to make money in things that I understand.
innovate,
It's about believing in the future and thinking that the future will be better than the past.
and inspire.
I am much more likely to hit my goal just due to putting it out there.
You're now rocking with the best.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Ryan Pineda Show. Today, I've got a guy who just stumbled upon in here. This guy has worked with Elon Musk. He's worked with Elton John, the Pope, and Forbes called him the real-life Wizard of Oz. Honestly, I don't even know what's about to happen in this podcast, so we are going to find out who this guy is and what exactly he does. What's up, Steve Sims?
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. So you're from America, right?
Well, I am now. I am actually American. I got citizenship about a year and a half ago, but originally an East London boy.
East London boy. So why are you here, dude? What do you do?
So I do many different things, but basically I wanted to hang around with rich people. And when I was a young lad and had no money, I thought that was the only way that I could actually make money was to find out that advice from people that had it. I went to Hong Kong, I went to Geneva, Stade, Paris, Palm Beach, and now I live here in Los Angeles after running probably the world's most successful luxury concierge firm for billionaires.
The world's most successful concierge firm for billionaires. So tell people what a concierge firm is.
Well, funny enough, I need to make a statement that I didn't go out to set it up. I wanted to have conversations with rich people, so I needed to find out what did they want. And most rich people, quite simply, want really cool cocktail stories. So I went out to find out what it is they wanted, backstage, front stage, meet and greets. I started off by just getting them into nightclubs and getting them into restaurants that they couldn't get into. And then from that, they were like, well, hang on a minute. I'd really like to meet Sir Elton John. I'd really like to, get a drum lesson by Guns N' Roses. I'd really like to learn how to play a guitar by ZZ Top or drive a Formula One car. And I just suddenly started to see, I wonder if I can pull that off.
Yeah, like who do you even turn to do that?
Well, the trouble is most people sit there and if you say, hey, I want to hang out with Elton John, most people go, oh, but I don't know how to do it.
Right.
And that'd be it. That's the end of it. You know people. We all know people. And we've all got, LinkedIn, Facebook. We've all got connections. So you ask, does anyone know this person? Does anyone? And you climb the ladder to get to what you want. Now, in the early stages, you can't just text Elton John, but you may know someone in his circle, or you may know someone just outside, and you work your way up. And over 25 years, I've probably got one of the world's best Rolodex.
Yeah, I bet. So you started to hear these problems that people, well, not even problems, these things they wanted.
First world problems.
Yeah, they're not problems. They're desires
Yeah.
of the rich. And you said, okay, if I can solve these desires, then I have an in.
I have an in, and if I can grab your attention by, letting you hang out with Keanu Reeves or getting you a walk-on role on a Hollywood movie, then I've got your attention a couple of days later for lunch to just go, hey, did you have a great time? Well, by the way, I wanted to ask you, Ryan, how do you do business or how did you become successful? Now, bearing in mind, this was started in 1994.
Right.
Had podcasts been going back then, I don't know if I'd ever started the concierge firm. I'd have just started a podcast to have those same conversations. But it didn't. And it was a world that we didn't have Instagram to point out how inadequate our lives were. So it was a time for me to actually have those real life conversations with incredibly wealthy people.
Yeah, no, I love it. Side note, you mentioned Keanu Reeves. I don't know where this comes from, but I've had multiple people tell me, they're like, dude, you kind of look like Keanu Reeves.
There is an element. There is the eyes.
I don't see it at all. But, if I could be like Neo in the Matrix and be the one, I'm good with it. So anyways, you start doing this concierge thing.
Yeah.
Like, what happens?
So again, I didn't want to start the concierge firm. I literally just wanted to have conversations with affluent people. So it kicked off in 94, started off on parties in Hong Kong, and more requests came. So people were like, oh, I can't get into this private club, or I can't get into the premiere of this movie, or I can't get into the opening of this gallery. And from there it went to, well, hang on a minute, I want to go to the New York or the Paris Fashion Week. I really want to go, backstage at the Grammys. I want to do, and all of these requests came. And I found myself able to pull them off.
Mm-hmm.
And the daft thing was, so many people were coming at me going, how do you do it? How do you do it? We had a party years ago, which would probably sum it up best. We had a party years ago, and it was in Hollywood, typical chintzy little Hollywood party. And I had two of the guys there, a guy and a girl actually, from the upcoming Marvel movie. So this was like 10 years ago, just before
Marvel just exploded.
Yeah, before there was a Marvel movie every week. And they were going to be these new superhero characters. And we'd all been, drinking the whiskey and stuff. And they said to us, hey, we're going to go around the table now. And what is your superpower? Or if you don't have a superpower, what would it be? And they all went around the table and they're all kind of quoting, oh, I'd like to, eradicate poverty with the flick of my hand, or I'd like to make people slimmer. And I was trying to think of a smart answer, and I couldn't think of one. And it gets to me. And this guy turns around, he's like, hey, Sims, what would your superpower be? And I'm trying to think what the bloody hell it would be. And my wife turns around, Claire, she's been with me, forever. We met when we were real young. And she's like, babe, I got this. Now, there's nothing better than someone else is saying something nice about you. So she turns around, she says, I know your superpower. And I'm like, go on, then. Tell them what my superpower is. She said, you're ignorant. And I was like, shit, that is not the answer I want to be hearing. And everyone at the table suddenly was like, oh, is there a and I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to get a divorce. And she turned around, she obviously felt the temperature of the room change. She's like, no, hang on a minute. When he's done this with Guns N' Roses, or he's done this with Sir Elton John, or he's done this with Elon Musk, or Richard, when have you sat there and gone, how the hell did he do that? Well, I'm going to tell you how he did it. He was ignorant to it going any other way than he envisaged it. Now, for anyone that's got kids just keep going. Kids are curious. And as adults, we we kill that curiosity. We're like, hey, stop doing that. And the worst statement in the planet, grow up.
Yeah.
If you look at the Jeff Bezos, the Elon Musk, the Richard Bransons, the Jean-Paul Dejor, all of these people, they are curious children.
Yep.
They want to try different things. So luckily, my wife says I'm a 55-year-old, 5-year-old, and I'm ignorant to someone saying no to me. And so I just bulldoze in going, hey, I'd really like to do this. What do we need to do to make it happen? Now, of course, it does help over the years that I've built up this credibility. I've sent people down to see the wreck of the Titanic. I've had them, doing tea parties at the feet of Michelangelo's David. So I've done all this. So I've got that credibility. So I get way more yeses than I used to get no's. But the bottom line is I'm always pushing the gauntlet. How can I take that request? And that's basically where the title came from. When someone would come to us and they'd be like, hey, I want to do this. We would never use the word impossible. That was the Voldemort of words.
Yeah.
Never used it. Second, you go, well, I want to do this. I know it's impossible, but I'm going to try. You've given it credibility. You've given it fuel. You've given it power. So we would always sit around the office and go, okay, we've got this request from a client. What's the stupidest thing we can come up with?
Yeah.
How can we make this ridiculous? And then we would go for that. And the daft thing is, we actually ended up achieving it.
Yeah. So tell me about a lot of these stupid things you've done. So what's the story with Elon?
So Elon, this was pre-NASA. Okay. So this was at a point in time when NASA was actually publicly, tweeting out humiliation and rebuttals against anything he was doing or saying. And him and Peter Diamandis wanted to do an awareness event at SpaceX. So we got some of the richest people in the planet. I think we had about 60 that turned up. And we did a private event in SpaceX where they got a private tour of the fuselage and all the workings that were going on. And then Elon came in and chatted over his ethos and how he actually developed. I remember a really cool story with Elon was I had to go to the other end of the facility to get Elon to come into the room to meet these people. And I took 2 of my clients with me just to kind of like, be a bit more preferential to them. So they got to meet Elon before we went into the room with the other 60 people. So we're walking through SpaceX and it's an incredible place. It's just rockets, and if you ever have you ever seen what the inside of SpaceX looks like?
No.
Have you ever seen the first movie, Iron Man?
Yep.
That is actually SpaceX, and Elon's actually one of the guys in the white coats.
That's funny.
He lent that factory to Jon Favreau to do the opening credit and the opening scene for Iron Man.
Oh, that's super
And
cool.
as a thank you, they actually gave him the Iron Man outfit. So when you go into SpaceX, they've actually got a signed Iron Man costume there. But we were walking back to the room, and one of my clients was just happy to be walking through SpaceX with Elon Musk. My other client, however, he was getting nervous, and he was babbling on like a little girl at a Justin Bieber concert. He wouldn't shut up. And it was getting a little bit, he was like, hey, Elon, what do you think of this? And, Mr. Musk, what do you think? Just trying to get into it. And Elon's not a chatty person.
Right.
He kind of uses his words carefully and really wants to have a direct, he doesn't want to be interviewed by some babbling, idiot. So I was getting to the point where I was kind of looking at the guy. The next step was going to be for me to poke him and go, hey, calm yourself down. But he turns around and he says, hey, how do you feel about the fact that everything you say, NASA publicly humiliates or rebuts, or how do you feel about that? This was the first time Elon actually spoke, and he didn't even speak to my client. He just turned around and said, they'll always laugh just before they applaud. And that was it. Mic drop moment. And I always remembered that because there's so many times that people laugh at us that we either don't care, and the really successful people, they don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the superpowers.
Wow. No, that's so good. You're giving me chills just listening to that story, but it's so true, man. A lot of the things that, I'm nowhere near Elon, but I think about things that I've done in my career that people laughed at. And, I didn't do it to be like, yep, they're going to be applauding me one day. But it was just like, I personally believe this is the right thing to do. People may not believe it, but, in time, hopefully we'll see who was right, But it's cool to see that Elon kind of has that determination. He still has it, right? Tesla almost went
never
bankrupt.
lost it. He's never lost it.
And I don't even think he really carries a chip on his shoulder. He's just like, this is what it's going to be. You guys are just too dumb to know.
Yeah. He doesn't. A lot of the people, and you know it. Like, how many haters do you have? You probably got tons. We've all got haters. I remember someone said to me once before, "Be so successful, you have haters."
Yep.
The daft thing is, most of the people that hate us can't afford us to start with,
right?
And have got nothing better to do with their life. And secondly, they hate on us because they feel inadequate to be able to do it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can become the tallest building by knocking all those others around you, that's a good way for them, but not for us.
100%. So tell me about the Pope. What's this deal with the Pope?
So we had this, so you need to understand the ethos. And again, the ethos behind the Go for Stupid book. People have asked us before, have you ever not got anything that the client asked for? And the obvious answer to that, and the arrogant answer to that, is no, because we've never given a client what they asked for. The point is that someone will come to you and they will go, hey, I'd love to do this. We'll sit down and go, okay, what's the stupidest thing we can do with this? And see how we can add something to it, actually add some more meat to it. So we had a client, quite simply, that wanted to get married. He said, I want the most amazing wedding. I want it to be done in Italy. What can we do? So we arranged for him to get married in the Vatican and blessed by the Pope.
That's funny.
We just wanted to see how far we could take these things. We had another client. It was a CNBC commentator that came to us. He said, I want to meet the rock band Journey. And we said to him, why do you want to do that? And he said, throughout my entire life, that music has been the theme tune to my movie, to my life. Through the ups and the downs, through illness, through marriage, poverty, rich, all that. There's always been Journey there. I want to shake that hand and say thank you. And we were like, okay, great. And we thought, you shaking hands with the rock band when they come off a concert at the end of the night, backstage, they're going to forget your name before they got to the green room.
Right.
So how can we really add something to it? We actually got him pulled up on stage during a concert in San Diego, and he sang 3 tunes with them, and he's now registered as the shortest term lead singer of the rock band Journey. He actually performed with the band.
Yeah.
That's how you do it. You take what someone asks and you kind of pocket it and go, okay, I'm hearing what you're asking for, but what can I give you that you desire? And the trouble
you don't
is,
even know you want.
Yeah. You don't know what you don't know. And you can translate that, instead of you out there thinking, well, I don't want to work with the Pope or Elon Musk. If you've got clients asking for things, your biggest mistake is to give it to them.
Right.
Because if you do that, you've now concluded a transaction.
Mm-hmm.
And if you give clients what they ask for, Amazon's waiting to take your job.
Yeah.
So today, I don't care what business you're in. If you're a baker, if you're a plumber, if you're a roofer, if someone asks you for something, go, great, here you go. I know you want this. But hey, while this is being done, shouldn't we pay attention to this and get into giving them the information? The client is not always right. The client doesn't know what they don't know. That's your job.
100%. 100%. If you're listening to this podcast, then my guess is you're interested in real estate investing. Some of you are just starting out, while others are trying to scale their business to the next level. But the problem is, with so much information out there, most people don't know which program or coach to trust. Well, I'm a bit biased, but I believe my company, Future Flipper, can help you get to the next level. We've coached thousands of students from all over the world on how to build their real estate investing business. It doesn't matter whether you want to flip, wholesale, or buy rentals. Our coaching program has everything you need to become a great investor. There are many things that we include with coaching, but to give you a few examples, you're going to get an accountability coach. These are people that have had success in their own business, and they want to make sure that you achieve success in yours. We also have all of our documents, our systems, and processes that I've used to buy hundreds of homes. You can copy and paste them directly into your own business. And we have events where you get to meet me, top-level guest speakers, and other students who are crushing it. My students do deals with each other, and I personally do deals with them too. In fact, at a recent event, I just honored over 20 people in our program that made over $1 million in the last year. So if you want to grow your real estate business, head over to futureflipper.com and apply for a call with our team. The call is completely free, and they can help point you in the right direction whether you work with us or not. So go to futureflipper.com and book your call today. For the last year, the real estate market has been on absolute fire. Prices are at all-time highs, interest rates are at all-time lows, and there is more money in the economy than ever. But with so much competition, many investors are sitting on cash, struggling to find great deals. If this sounds like you, then you need to invest with Pineda Capital. With my network and social media following, we get access to the best real estate deals all over the country. And if you're an accredited investor, you can invest with me on those deals. In fact, last year we purchased a 334-unit apartment complex in Georgia for almost $20 million. We expect it to be worth well over $30 million when it's all said and done. Our goal with each deal is to build in so much equity from the beginning that we're able to refinance our investors' cash out and own the properties together with little to no money into the deal. And the best part is, you don't have to do anything. Our team will find the deals, handle the renovations, get them leased, and eventually refinanced or sold. All you have to do is provide the capital. So if you want exclusive access to our deals before they hit the public, go to pinedacapital.com to schedule a call. We can put your money to work today to start getting you great returns. So go to pinedacapital.com now to get access to our deals. So, and Steve Jobs, I think, used to say that about all of their products. They're like, well, the client's not going to like this. And Steve Jobs, like, the client doesn't know what they want.
Yeah.
I tell the client, the customer, what they want.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, it's true. So my question is, with all these crazy, stupid things that you end up doing, I mean, it's obvious, like, okay, that's cool. Client wants something. You guys brainstorm. You're like, let's make it even stupider. How do you actually go about executing these things? What is required behind the scenes to create these experiences and products out of thin air? They obviously don't exist. What is happening behind the scenes to make these things happen?
The thing that we all need to be focusing on today, and it's the exact same thing, whether or not you're trying to do something with the Vatican or you're trying to get a deal with your local, businessman, relationships. Today, relationships have never been more important, and they're going to need to get more important. Play a little game with you, all right, if you wish. you're in Los Angeles and I'm having a barbecue party this Sunday. And I say, Ryan, come along to my barbecue party. And you say yes. What's the first question you ask me?
Who's there?
Who's there? Great question. Okay, so I give you some people that are going to be there. You like the people that are going to be there. What's the second question you ask me?
When is it? Or
great. So I tell you when it is. It's 8:00 this night. What's the third question you ask me?
What are you serving? Do I need to bring anything?
All right. You just asked me you just gave me 4 questions. Only one of them benefited me. 3 of them were selfish for you.
Right.
All right. In today's economy, you've got to enter every single conversation. Now, I play that game a lot.
Yeah.
And here's a funny thing. Guys always get it wrong.
Uh-huh.
You ask this to a lady, and the first question she's going to come back with is, what can I bring?
Yeah.
Before the dress code, before who's going to be there, before, what can I bring? You've got to imagine that every conversation you enter is a party. What can you bring? So when I want to get to someone and I want to get to something, first of all, I look at who's in the circle, who's in the spiral, who's on the outside of that relationship. Right. And I contact them, and it may be Ryan's got a connection with, I don't know, Roland Fraser, a mutual friend of ours, or John Gafford or something. And I want to get to them, and I don't know them. But I could come over to you, Ryan. I'd be like, hey, Ryan, I see you're friends with John Gafford and Roland Fraser and people like this. I need to have a conversation with them. But before I get into that, so the first thing you do is make a statement that you're after something, and then you quickly switch it and you focus on what you can bring to the party. But before I get into that, Ryan, your podcast and your YouTube, it's doing really, really well. I've got a distribution channel. How would it help you if I helped kind of promote your channel and promote your upcoming book?
Yeah.
Now you're there going, Steve, I'd love that. I'd love it to get you out. Great. Then I want it. When could we do it? Oh, by the way, do you remember I mentioned this? What needs to happen for you to do that for me? One thing, never ask a question where no can be answered.
Okay.
If I said to you, can you do this? No is always the shortest, easiest answer. And if you say no, then I've got to challenge you to change it. No one likes to come back from a no.
Right. Once the no said, they don't want to change their mind.
So don't let it come up. Hey, I'd really love to do this. What do we need to do to make that happen, Ryan?
Yep.
Because if they turn around and go, no, they sound like a moron.
Mm-hmm. No.
So that's the focus. So anyone that you're speaking to, and it's all in the book, anyone that you're speaking to, play the barbecue game. What can I bring to the conversation? I'll give you a perfect example of this. So there was this guy that I was trying to get hold of, VC guy up in Silicon Valley. I just wanted to get hold of him. I knew his circle of people he was involved in every big tech company you can think of. And I wanted to get him as a client. So I Googled the guy. Okay. I looked up images, found out what events he goes to, what charities he's involved in, what passions is it, found out that he was on the board of a charity, found out a charity gala was coming up and that he was going to be at the event. So I bought a ticket. I went along on my little lonesome, put my tuxedo on, and I'm at the bar waiting for a moment when he was going to be a bit more quiet. And I walked up to him. Now, I had my team look up some of the projects he was working on. And we found a project that was around. It had been around for about a year. And we said, okay, what's wrong with this project? Let's do a 30,000-foot view of this. We came up with 2 things, and they were quite weak, to be honest with you. But 2 problems that could possibly ruin that project. People love what they call listicles 3 and 5. People don't want the 2 ways to get smarter. They want the 3. I don't understand why. Somewhere psychologically, we like 3s and 5s.
Yep.
So I had to come up with a 3rd one, and it was desperately weak. So we found 2 things that were good ideas. 3rd one that was a bit kind of, but it was 3. So I waited, walked up to him in the night, and I'm walking towards him. Now, dissect this strategy. I walked up to him, and I said, hey, X, you don't know me, but my name's Steve Sims. That's incredibly important, and a lot of people don't do it. How many people have walked up to you going, Ryan, how you doing? And you're stood there going, who the frickin' hell is this guy?
Yep, all the time.
Doesn't it put you on edge? Doesn't it make you feel kind of like, okay, who do I know? Do I know this person? Is he a friend? Have I bumped into him at a party?
100%.
And it makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And when you're uncomfortable, you start doing it. You're not in that moment. And the person talking to you is kind of like, who the hell is this guy? He's a bit off.
Yep.
So let them down. Hey, Ryan, how you doing? You don't know me. My name's Steve Sims. It calms you down. But then the next question is, they're going to think, well, what do you want? You know? So I turned around and I said, you don't know me. My name's Steve Sims, but I do know you're working on a project. And me and my team were looking over this the other week, and we noticed that there were 3 things that could get in the way of it going forward. Would this be of interest if I quickly went through those 3 things with you? And he's looking at me, glass in his hand, and he's like, all right, then what are they? And I said, well, number 1, I know you're working on this, and we discovered this. You know, you probably already sorted it, but we were concerned that this could happen, which could create a ceiling. Number 2, we found blah, 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 blah. You know, number 3, as I say, number 3 was weak. I think it was like on the color code of a logo or something like that. You know, some people don't like that color. Have you ever thought of changing the hue of that color? It was weak. And he looks at me and he starts laughing at me. Now, you know, I'm a big, ugly guy. I don't like people laughing at me too much. So I'm thinking to myself, this didn't go as planned. Okay, so I'm stood there for a minute. All of a sudden, his minions around him, they start laughing at me. So I'm thinking, all right, this is getting a little bit bad now. So I turn away to just walk back to the bar and grab myself a drink. Now the guy reaches out and puts his hand on my shoulder. So not only is he laughing at me, he's now touching me. 2 things British people don't like. All right. Okay. We're not very touchy-feely people. Now I'm thinking this is going to get ugly real fast. So I'm looking at him. I'm not even turned all the way around. I'm looking at him, and he said, look, I am so sorry. Please stop a second. So I'm like, okay, I'll play this out. Where's this going? He said, you know, the funny thing is, the second thing that you came up with was the reason we actually canceled that project 6 months ago. Now, bear in mind, his minions are still laughing at me. He said, none of these idiots saw that coming. Now, all of a sudden, not laughing. He said, but you, Googling me, hit number 2, which would have kept that project alive. He said, now, I never go back to a project once I've killed it. I never go back. How would you like to be on retainer to look at my deals? Just to take a, you know, uneducated overview, just to see if you can say, I've been with that guy for 6 years now. I got my last deal, I think, about a month. I don't understand half of what's going on. But we just look to see if we can see simple things that they've overlooked.
Yep.
It's what you can bring to the party, show up with a value. And when I used to show up with affluent clients, hey, I believe you're involved in this and you love that. How would you like to meet the guy? How would you like to go backstage? How would you? I did those things purely and simply because if I can gain your trust, gain your excitement, give you a more interesting cocktail story, you're going to spend an hour with me. And I've got to interview some of the most powerful people in the planet because of that.
I love it. You know, it's something that I always tell people all the times, right? Like, you want to go get someone's attention, you got to give them value in some way, right? It might be in the way that you're talking, where it's just pure value of information, of service, of acts, of all these things. Or you're just going to pay someone. Like, you know, that's the only way to get them. Yeah. And, you know, you got to pay somebody, but expecting people to just give you stuff because you were bold enough to DM them or reach out to them, or nobody gives a crap about that. You gotta come bearing value from the get-go. And even myself today, right, where a lot of people reach out to me, right, wanting to, for whatever reason, right? I still have to remind myself that, hey, no matter what, even if this person is coming to me wanting something, I still want to do it even more so of like, hey, okay, we're going to do, how can I give you value even beyond that? Like, what can I do for you? And it's something that I always try and think about. Am I great at it every time? No. But I know that it's also what got me to this point. I know it's what's going to get me to the next point.
Yeah, well, you're removing the transaction out of the relationship.
Yeah.
The second you have that transaction in there, again, Amazon's going to, you know, take you over. But there was a time I was stood next to Elton John. I'm obviously name dropping, so I apologize for that. But I was next to Elton John. Some guy walked up to him at a party and turned around and said, oh, Sir Elton, I've got an event going on. How much would it cost me? And as he said that, Elton turned around and said, sorry, I'm busy those days, and walked away. Now, the funny thing was, the guy never said the dates. The fact that he had asked how much, he had prostituted the situation. No one wants to be purchased. Everyone wants to be of value, no one wants to be purchased. So the more affluent the person gets, you've got to focus on the impact. You've got to focus on the value rather than the invoice.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's basically what you're saying is your sales skills matter a ton, because you are always selling yourself and trying to figure out the way to essentially get the things you're looking for. And like you said, obviously Elton John doesn't need money. So that's not going into it from that way as a sales guy was already the wrong path, because that's not what's motivating him. You know, the way you would, if I was going to go up to Elton John, I don't want anything, you know, like you said, hey, you don't know me. My name's Ryan.
Yeah.
You know, whether this might not be true or whatever, you know, love your music, you know, compliment him. And, you know, whatever your ask is, by the time you finally get to it, just say, hey, dude, you know, I'd love to have you speak at one of my events or whatever else. If there's any way to make that possible, if there's anything I can do for you, like name it. Here's like what I'm good at and what I could possibly provide as a service or a connection or whatever.
Yeah, if you're looking, let's pick on the celebrities at the moment. A celebrity is always cheapest when they've got something for sale. So if there's a movie that's out, a podcast, like Matthew McConaughey, didn't speak to anyone on podcasts for absolutely years, comes out with a book and he's on every single podcast. So the same thing with Gary Vee. So you want to focus on what do they have that you could actually expose, distribute, and get out there further. Focus on the value. They may not have anything, but they may have a charity. They may have a foundation. They may have a cause that they are behind. And you can turn around and go, look, I would like this, but I would really like to bring attention with my tribe, my community to your cause. Would that be a benefit to you? And of course, they're not going to say, no, screw my cause.
Yeah.
They're going to go, that's fantastic. Yeah. So bring value. It doesn't always have to be a paycheck. There's been a ton of stuff that I've done. The payments have never, ever been part of it.
Oh, 1,000%. And you know what's cool now? So I use everything I've got to bring people value, because a lot of the guys I work with, it's not about the money. Like I don't honestly, I can't remember the last time I paid for mentorship personally. It was always a value-based thing of, you know, like, hey, guess what? Like I've got this social media following, this podcast, like let's get you on the podcast. Let's, you know, feature you in a video. Okay. You want to meet this guy who you've seen on my podcast. Let me make an introduction. That's a huge thing, by the way, for anyone listening. Introductions, like, and you would know this, like so you said it anywhere. Relationships are like the main thing. Relationships are really currency. My buddy Brad Lee, who you know, says the same thing. He's like, that's the new currency. The more people you know, the more connections you have, it just makes you that much more valuable and people want to work with you.
And that currency is going up tenfold. It's going to be a greater return on your asset than any kind of Bitcoin or NFT. The relationship market, and we've seen it because it's kind of been knocked. We went through COVID where people were blaming it. That was the excuse period. You know, how many people did you hear going, I hate COVID, I can't get out and do this? The funny thing was they weren't doing it originally in any case.
Yeah.
It was
but
great
the fact
excuse.
that they couldn't do it.
Yeah. The one thing that they weren't doing was being given the opportunity to make those relationships. Now, anyone that knew how important relationships were, you, me, Bradley, all of those kind of people, we still continued that through COVID.
Right.
And we still kept pushing it. Today, what you've got to offer versus who you know, the currency is in that. Build up your relationships.
Yeah. I mean, I only have so many talents, right? But if you know a lot of people with different talents and you can make those connections, now your essential talent just grew exponentially. It's crazy. You
don't need to be the talent. If you know, I've often said, I don't know a lot, but I know people that are brilliant at it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you become the conduit that they need.
Right. Exactly. 100%. It's funny. I had just an easy example of what's happening right now. You know, I have a new house and we're doing the backyard and all this stuff. And the guy who is doing our sports court, you know, I'm going to build, I haven't even played pickleball, but I'm going to now build a pickleball court because everybody's telling me it's like super cool.
Yeah.
And it's just good it's like a big square area for the kids to go play on and stuff. And this guy did my court about 3 years ago for basketball. And it was 3 years ago when I was not anybody on social media or anything, you know, whatever. I just hired him, paid him like any other contractor. This time around, you know, I'm like, hey, I got the court, you know, let's do it. He's like, dude, I got to say, I've been following all your stuff the last couple of years. Like, it's crazy to see what you've done and grown. Like, do you do any kind of mentorship? Like, I'll pay you. And I was like, honestly, like, I don't do any one-on-one mentorship. I just don't have time. But, you know, if you want to do this court, we'll figure something out where I can just kind of give you some value in some way. And sure enough, he's like, all right, like, I'll do the court at cost. Just give me some pointers and this and that. And obviously we're going to go film it on my social media anyway, so it'll help his business. And it's like, all right, cool. This is a super big win-win where, I save some money on something I was going to get anyway.
Mm-hmm.
He gets a ton of exposure and a ton of advice and things that he wants to know to build his company and brand. And so it's just using those talents to create win-wins.
Most people want to get rich at all costs. They make sacrifices with their family, their health, and their faith, all in the pursuit of money without even realizing it. But what if I told you it doesn't have to be that way? What if you could grow your wealth in all areas of life? Well, it's possible, and that's why I created The Wealthy Way. It's a community of people striving to grow together in all areas. And we have multiple tools for you to use that are completely free. You can get access to the Wealthy Way Planner, where you can set goals and hold yourself accountable on a daily basis. We also have our Wealthbuilder Academy, which is over 4 hours of content teaching you how to manage your time, create the right goals, and all the biggest secrets I've used to grow my life, not only in my net worth, but in all aspects. Lastly, we have our Discord community where thousands of wealth builders are all over the world encouraging one another and growing together. And once again, all of this is completely free. There are no upsells, there are no hidden catches. For me, this is a passion project, and I want to build a community of like-minded people. So if you want to start living the wealthy way today, go to wealthyway.com. There you can get all the free resources like the course, planner, and Discord community. So go to wealthyway.com.
But that's a value that you can't purchase.
You can't purchase it.
And that's the thing that we've got now. We've got Amazon, Purple Bricks. We've got all of these companies out there which are transactional. And even during COVID, we became a transactional society. And we've become used to actually barking orders. How many people now walk into their house and they go, Alexa, do this, Siri, do that? We're barking orders at AI. We're losing the ability to communicate. We're losing the ability to make relationships. But if we can go back on that, here's the dumb thing. With so many people getting really bad at it, you look exceptional just by trying. So it's a good focus to work on that. We did a little test. I have events called speakeasies, and we did this thing. I call it the Cappuccino Challenge.
Yeah.
So
I love coffee.
Well, try this. And anyone out there listening to this, try this.
Yeah.
We walked down to the local Starbucks. We walked up to the barista. We ordered our coffee. And then what happens when they order their coffee? They step to the side to wait for their coffee. And then the first thing they do is they pull out their phone. Because God forbid someone could stand in silence for like 3 seconds for their mocha waka whatever. All right. So that stood there now going through their phone. The goal is, the challenge is, you've got to strike up a conversation with the person next to you.
Okay.
All right. In today's society, now again, I'm 55 years old. I remember standing at the train station at the bus stop. You would just end up having a conversation with them. How you doing?
You don't have a choice. You're bored.
Yeah, exactly. You're having a conversation. But now people use those phones like their armor.
Yeah.
And have you noticed that in a public setting, most people look at their phones with two hands? Have you noticed that?
Mm-mm.
Check it out. Now, if you take the phone away, what am I? I'm in a guarded position. So psychologically, body formation, we're actually on guard. Would you come up and talk to me if I had my fists up? You wouldn't. But when I'm holding a phone, I'm doing the exact same. So when you try breaking through that and you go, hey, how you doing? What coffee did you get? They're already in a guarded position. They look at you like you're mad.
Why are you talking to me?
Yeah, exactly. So I walked into this restaurant, into this Starbucks. This girl's next to me. I lucked out, straight away. She's this beautiful 20-something-year-old girl. I'm a 55-year-old biker. I'm looking like a lech. So
just being a creeper.
I'm looking like a creep, and I'm thinking, shit, anyone else would have been better, but I've got this girl. So I looked over and I went, hey, I like your shoes. Now she's holding her phone in the guarded thing. The first thing she did was look at her shoes.
Yep.
Like she couldn't bloody remember what shoes she had put on that morning.
Right.
And she just looks at me and she goes, oh, thank you. And goes back to her phone. And I said, my wife's bought a handbag. and she's looking for a pair of shoes. It's that color. Do you mind me asking, where did you get those shoes from?
Yeah.
And I'm still pursuing this thing. She didn't want anything to do with this conversation. She's like, I don't think I remember. Okay, fair enough. I was still had to pursue. Next to her was a little girl, and I think a nanny. I don't think it was her mum, but I think it was like a nanny or something. And this little girl was looking at me and looking at these shoes. And she's smiling at me. And so I look at her and I went, they're pretty shoes, aren't they? She's like, yeah, I like that color. Now, the funny thing happened, because now there were other people in this conversation, this girl felt safe, but more importantly, she actually felt as though she was out of it. She felt as though she was being talked about without being in the conversation. She lowered her phone and started speaking to the girl, and then turned around to me and she went, oh, actually, I do remember. I got the, I was like, oh, thank you. And we started this conversation. The danger is, and the downside is, that was tough.
Yeah.
It was hard to do. Most people won't do it. But if you can strike up a conversation with someone in an environment where, quite simply, now we don't have conversations, you're going to fine-tune your communication skills. When you're trying to do a deal for $1 million, you don't need the $1 million. You need communication skills.
Yeah.
That's the element you need to be focusing on.
I 100% agree. I'll tell you, I say this all the time. Naturally, I'm an introverted person. And so growing up, I was always shy. I did not want to talk to people. Even my friends and other things. Not like I didn't want to talk to them, but I was always just a very quiet person. And even today in my companies, you ask most people, I'm very quiet. Like, I will speak to you if I am spoken to. You know, I'm not going to go be like super outgoing, trying to rally people up, start random conversations and all that stuff. But because of, I guess, everything I've had to go through creating social media content, being recognized, you know, like pretty much every time I go out, holding my own events where everybody wants to come talk to me. Like, I literally talk to strangers for a living nonstop.
Yeah.
And so for me to go up to a coffee shop, now I could just be like, hey, you know, and I'll just start a conversation. I don't care, because I'm just so used to it. And I think it just becomes that thing where you have done it so many times, I have done it so many times, that we have no fear. And we're just like, yeah, you know, whatever. What's the worst that happens? You never see that person again, and it is what it is. Who cares?
Do you know, the funny thing is, you bring up a very valid point. Most people think, and they probably think this of you, and I'm sure as hell they think this of me, they think we're extroverts.
Yeah.
The beauty, I'm actually an introvert. The reason I like, you know, looking like I do is because 9 times out of 10 it repels people. I can be left alone, and I'm very happy about that. I am not the guy people come up to in a bar and strike up a conversation with.
Right.
You know, because I don't look warm and fuzzy. Great. But as an introvert, we move with purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You know you have to speak to people because that helps your living. You know you have to converse with people at an event because it helps your event. An introvert moves with purpose. I believe introverts have an advantage with communication because an extrovert just wants to be the subject of any conversation.
Correct.
But an introvert will go, I have to do this because by being here, like I'm doing a tour at the moment, promoting the book. It's wearing me out. I got home last night to my apartment, phoned up my wife, and I was like, I am done. You know, I had like 6 interviews yesterday, I got 5 today. It's tiring, but we do it because we know I need to do this in order for this to happen.
Yep.
So I think any introverts out there going, oh, I don't like talking to people. Great. That means when you do, you'll do it with purpose, and that'll make you better.
100%. 100%. So you mentioned something pre-show about the Soho House. You know, I was asking you about living in LA. You were saying, yeah, you know, Cali's fine and all this stuff, but it's the weirdest people ever. And you said, if somebody ever wants to meet me at the Soho House, that's when I already know this isn't going to work out.
Yeah, I'm afraid so. There's a lot of very good. The Soho House is a beautiful place.
What is it for those who don't even know?
So the Soho House it started off in England. It's a private membership club. It was set up originally for anyone within like the media, TV, radio, that kind of stuff. And it's grown outside of that now. So there's, you know, they now are, God, I don't know how many clubs they've got all over the planet, but just in Los Angeles alone, they've got downtown LA, West Hollywood, and Malibu. I know they've got like Germany, Paris, Miami, but originally it was set up in London, and they're really cool locations, really cool clubs. But LA tries to kind of, and we were speaking about this before, they try to look as though they don't care. And they go out of their way to look as homeless as possible and then turn up to be in a private club. I don't like the prairie dog mentality. And the prairie dog mentality is heightened in the Soho House in Hollywood. No matter who walks through the door, anyone you're having a conversation with will suddenly pick their head up to see who's come into the door. It's that kind of like, oh, don't you know me? I'm a member of the... There's an arrogance, and that's what I have a problem with today. I also have a problem with it because in Hollywood, there's so many really, really cool locations. You mentioned the Nobu, you know?
Yeah.
There's so many cool locations, so you don't have to go to this place. And I will be... Soho House, this is for you. I love old fashions. Yeah, don't do a good one in Malibu. If I'm paying membership, step up your game.
Do they do one ice cube or multiple ice cubes? That I got to know.
Yeah, the multiple. It was like a Jamba Juice.
Yeah, if you send me an old-fashioned with multiple ice cubes, I already know. You don't know what you're doing.
Ryan, me and you have just become a kin. Everyone knows that I'm an old-fashioned nut.
Me too.
And so I'm doing my book launch in Hollywood, October the 18th.
Yeah.
And I found an absolutely incredible location for it. So we went down there a couple of days just to check it out. The location was brilliant. They had a bar there. They had bartenders. So last Saturday, I was at a birthday party for Robert Plant from Led Zeppelin. And afterwards, I went, well, let's go down to this venue. You know, we've seen it during the day. It looks great. Let's go down and see what it's like. This guy started knocking up this old fashioned. The first thing he did was threw loads of ice in the glass. And I thought, fair enough. They usually do that just to cool the glass down. All right. And then he started getting a cherry and mashing the shit out of the cherry. He cut an orange basically in half. It was like getting a fruit smoothie. Right. And this thing was delivered to me. I just looked at it and no word of a lie, took a photo of it, paid. And then as I was leaving, texted the location to cancel the contract for me to throw my party out there. There was no way in the world I was going to be there when I was getting that as what they called an old-fashioned. It was disgusting.
Smoothie.
It was ridiculous. Yeah, Jamba Juice special.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. I love it. So,
but you got to have standards.
Oh, I do. Yeah,
you got to do.
If you
man.
don't have one ice cube, you know.
Yeah.
If you don't have the option for some smoke, there's some problems.
Yeah.
You know. So on the Soho side or the Soho House side of things, what does the membership even cost? Like,
Oh, I don't know. I don't want to become an advert for them, I'm afraid. I don't think the membership's a lot. I think it's like $1,500. It's really not a lot of money. You've got to be invited. You've got to have members put you forward.
Right.
So there's this whole kind of like, well, I got accepted kind of thing.
Yeah. It's like a country club.
Yeah. I want to work with people that are more authentic than relying on whether a membership of.
Right.
You know, and that's what my problem is. As I say, they've got locations in London. And they're all fantastic. And I've been to the London ones as well. You know, architecturally, my God, they're beautiful. Right. They are really beautiful places. But let's just say that, and we can say this about LA. You know, LA is an absolutely fantastic place if everyone would leave. I'm going to get hate mail for that, but you know you suck.
I hear you, dude. So, obviously you're on a book tour, man, as we wrap up here. Tell me about the book.
So the book really was my aggravation during COVID that people aren't going for stupid enough. They're actually just going with what they think they can achieve rather than pushing themselves. And quite simply, you're the one that gets in the way of it. You said before that you went after goals because you just wanted to go from anyone else laughing at you. You didn't really listen to them. The downside with today, we're in a gotcha society and we're in a cancel society. We're in a cancel culture. Yeah. Or do you remember he dressed up as this in 1997? He said this on a radio pro. Let's ban him. Let's ruin his entire life because he said something silly. The point is, while we're in that culture, it's stopping us as entrepreneurs trying new things. You mentioned Elon Musk earlier, and there's loads of examples in there of what I've done, how to do it, lots of tactics to get over it. But do you remember Elon Musk when he unveiled the Cybertruck?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Broke the window.
What was the headlines the following day?
The Cybertruck's broke, you know.
This man produced something that the only relevance or relatability to any other truck was it had 4 rubber tires. Outside of that, the composite, the angle, the doors, the engine, there was nothing. Rather than revere someone for stepping out of the box and redesigning something, We wanted to point and laugh and mock him because the bulletproof windows broke.
Yep.
Now, if your truck specification needs to be bulletproof glass, you don't need that truck. You need to move. First of all. Then, I don't know if you saw it. Did you see the videos that he did afterwards where he shot different projectiles at the windows to show that it stood up to it?
No.
No one did. No one cared. We wanted to point at that man and laugh at him.
Right.
We like to knock people down. And sadly, if we're trying to knock down Elon, what are we doing with ourselves?
Yeah.
This is for all the entrepreneurs out there. Listen up to this because this is key. And I'm sure you've had it. How many times do we sit in a bar, in a coffee shop? We've got people around us. We're talking about this idea that we're going to put together. And one of those people at the table go, Ryan, what are you thinking? Are you mad?
Mm-hmm.
And we're faced with an option then of either going, no, I'm not mad, and this is what I'm going to do. Or sadly, we revert to option 2 where we go, yeah, I don't know what I was smoking. Maybe something, I'm just going, I'm having a crazy, and we dilute our drink.
Mm-hmm.
Today's world, anyone that laughs at you and doesn't challenge, push, or support you, get them off your table.
Right.
We spoke before, we're part of memberships. We're in the same memberships, in the same mentor groups.
Yep.
Because we want to be in rooms where they support our ridiculous goals and push us towards them. So the whole point now is tactically how to start focusing your life on going for stupid goals and then achieving them.
Yeah. No, 1,000%. Well, Steve, dude, I'm inspired even to get crazier with what I do and just not care about what anyone thinks. So, guys, go check out Steve's book, Go for Stupid. It'll be on Amazon and everything else. I'm sure we'll link to it down below. Steve, I want to thank you for coming out, man. It's been a blast. And if you guys enjoyed this, make sure you subscribe to the podcast, and we'll catch you later. Peace.
Thanks for watching The Ryan Pineda Show. If you want to work with me, head over to ryanpineda.com. You can find my courses, coaching programs, and upcoming events. We also have free resources you can download, so head over to ryanpineda.com.